And hey, gang, welcome to the second half of our double header for this Friday on Executive Espresso. And we have an additional treat for you. We have Nico Verresen here, who is going to teach us how to take a punch in business and in life because he's made a career out of that. He is a 5 times Belgian, Benelux, European, and Vice World champion in Muay Thai. He is a world-class training in both body and mind and offers that out to clients. He is a former assistant professor and quality of life researcher at the Free University of Brussels. And interestingly to me, since I do hypnotherapy, he leverages hypnotherapy or hypnosis practices and mindset strategies of world-class athletes to coach high performers in both business and sports, and he's actually coached 4 world champions in kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all kinds of things. He continues to work with exceptional people. Clients have been featured on BBC, ESPN, Eurosport, NASDAQ, Forbes, and Inc. And Nico, thank you for being here today. What did I leave out?
We're 5 world champions.
Oh, 5. Oh, I robbed you of
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Five
Of
world
course.
champions.
That's okay.
Well,
Yeah,
goodness,
yeah, yeah.
give us a little bit more of your background. How did you transition from being a professional fighter and knocking people out to, as you say, helping them smile more?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I used to be a fighter. Was my complete identity, and so I went from Muay Thai into MMA when I was like 27, something like that, pretty late. But and then I had the chance to go to the US, to New York. I had a job there. I was gonna do the Ultimate Fighter. Finally, the UFC. That was a big dream. But then I did the medical checks in Belgium because it's much cheaper. And in that moment, my entire world came tumbling down because I had 2 retinal detachments. And 7 surgeries later, I felt I had no choice but to hang on the gloves because I like to look at pretty things too much. And so that's in that moment I started working with people, but it was not really there. But in a certain moment, I realized, well, wait a minute, what I did is I pushed so hard, I grinded so hard that I really undermined my own potential because after KO, I started training immediately. I broke my arms 3 times. I won, but it's not very healthy. 7 tears on your eyes. It's not the best thing in the world. So I see this similar mindset in a lot of businessmen. They have their baby and they go for it. They work so hard, and at certain moments they have all these achievements. Yeah, and now what? And they feel empty inside because they didn't enjoy the road. And so I'm really dedicated to help people to do it differently.
And what are
Yeah.
some ways that you do that?
Well, one of the ways is, let's take an inventory of your life. What brings you the most fulfillment, and what are you spending your time to? And that's a very painful exercise very often. If you really go see what, I first ask them what is most important to you, and then they give all these things. And very often it's family, it's the partner, it's the relationship, and then let's see like how much time do you invest in it, and it becomes painful.
I agree. I
Now
agree.
then,
I don't think we put our
yeah,
time where our mouth is often. We'll say our family is the most
exactly.
important, but the amount of time we spend with the family is
Yeah,
minimalized
yeah.
in the pursuit of, well, I don't know, money or some type of worldly success. Um, and so I guess there's a mindset shift that you help coach people to make from things that they're spending their time on to things that are the most important. And how do you do that?
Well, the first thing is that first painful insight, but then the second thing is, okay, we need to refocus from quantity on quality. So we go through again through an inventory of their jobs. What do they need to do? Then the second thing is like, what are the experiences with their important others that give the most bang for your buck? Because you can sit behind the television every night. It can be really intimate, but generally it's just you're zoning out next to each other. That's not really fulfilling. So I say, okay, let's see to the experiences and the kind of contacts that give you the most bang for your buck for both of it, both in business and in your relationships. Because if you can do that, then you can become so much more efficient. And then that's one thing. The second thing is we have to learn to switch from go mode to let go mode. The transitions is very often where we lose a lot of it. And so we can use transitions. For example, when you go from your job in the car to the house, that's a perfect moment to really just take even 5 minutes to let go of the things of the day. Okay, these are the things that I have to take care of tomorrow. You write it down, close the book, and then it's like a ritual where you say before you walk in, you just relax a bit. You do some breath work or a guided hypnosis, whereby in 5 to 10 minutes you can completely relax, let everything go, and then you are again recharged to give full attention and full presence with the people that are most important to you.
You know, I think that for a lot of business owners, that is a huge problem. In psychology, we call it switching set. We get in a
Yes.
flow state of business, business, business. Well, you have to switch from that flow state when you get home to something different. And I find that a lot of people really, really struggle with that because I don't know, I think that they catastrophize. They think if I'm not always working at my business, then my business may go under. But for me, I look at it a different way, and that is setting business aside to refuel with my family is kind of like being on a journey and I stop for fuel at a fuel station at a gas station, as we say in the states. And I remember Stephen Covey in one of his trainings that I attended asked us. It was a train the trainer thing. He said, have you ever been too busy driving to stop and get gas? And for me, my gas is my wife and my son, my family, and I think that's why a lot of business owners experience what they call burnout because they don't stop and refuel. They don't focus on the things that are the most important. Now, you have a lot of strategies for dealing with conflict, disagreements, and as you say, fighting to create better relationships. So, what are some ways
Yes.
that you teach people how to deal with these conflicts and disagreements? Because I find it fascinating that you guys will get in a ring and you're about to knock each other's lights out, but you'll shake hands before and you may hug after. And I think a lot of people have trouble switching set from conflict to engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of my best friends are former opponents. Why? Because we understand the fight is more about the fight with yourself. And so the same thing applies when you fight with somebody else. Very often, what does fighting show you? That you are separate people. People believe that to have a great relationship, you have to be one. That's the biggest lie that I've been told. Like a lot of people in psychology use attachment theory, and it's a real well researched theory. However, uh, it focuses only on half the equation. Your need for connection, for belonging. However, your need for self determination is being ignored too much. And so it's the balance between those two things. I love Dr. David Schnarch. I'm a big fan of him. Uh, I want to do an internship with him, but he died during COVID, so it's very,
Oh,
yeah, it's sad. Yeah, but this man, he says real intimacy is staying close to people that are really important to you while they're pressuring you to compromise yourself and to stay true to yourself, but do not break the connection. To me, this is the essence of true warriorship. This is the essence of real intimacy. This is the essence of the route to where you really can be yourself. But to do that, you have to learn to make room in a psychophysiological space. You can breathe in room. You can imagine that you become like a giant and just hold all that intensity. Very often we become reactive. We feel anger, we feel anxiety, and all of a sudden we think we have to get rid of that. No, when you learn to breathe into it, sit into your shit, you can use this shit to fertilize the ground and make a beautiful garden out of it.
I've never, I don't think I've ever heard that analogy when dealing with your stuff before. That's fantastic. But I agree. I think that you're teaching people here something that is quite the opposite of what they've always heard, and I think it's counterintuitive that when you're experiencing these difficult thoughts, which produce these difficult emotions, we do want to run away. And in relationships, that means disconnecting. And what you're saying is you can stay connected. And I guess if we use a fighting type of analogy, it's, I think, in sparring with each other and realizing that we're not really a threat to each other, that we each become better people.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're, I guess when you're
Absolutely.
fighting, well, I put this up on the screen here. This is Nico fighting, and he's in his prime there. He's all six packed or eight packed out, and it looks like, I don't know. I don't guess that guy connected. Did the punch connect or did he miss?
No, yeah, he missed it, and it was that uppercut was gonna connect, and then I knocked him out
Oh,
with
you
an
knocked him
overhand.
out.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
knocked the guy out. Did you guys hug after or
yeah.
shake hands after, become friends after?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Not
That's
France. It was
awesome.
in Japan, so I don't
That
live in
was in
Japan. But
Japan. When
yeah,
when
yeah, yeah,
when you take a punch from somebody, and of course now we're not advocating violence in relationships. We're talking metaphorically here, but when
exactly.
you take a uppercut in a relationship, not literally, figuratively, what's a good way to think about that when you're sparring with another person?
Very often, when we take a hit, I believe that we give ourselves that hit. So very often, what happens is, for sure, in an intimate relationship, but also in a business relationship, our partner gives us a mirror. And it's not necessarily the mirror of who we are, but it's the mirror of how we come across. So it's a very important resource to learn about how your actions affect other people. And so, to me, I also don't take criticism very personally. I learned this a long time ago. Uh, I once had a woman who cheated on me, and actually, I didn't take it personal because she was attracted to this guy. Of course, yeah, we stopped, but at the same time, it didn't broke my own self esteem because I realized like we had a great sex life, but it was about something completely different. And what I learned from that is that, well, yeah, there were some things missing that I didn't see. So I took responsibility for that. So I think it's very difficult for sure in the current atmosphere of society where we have to weigh our words, we have to be really careful what we say or not say. Well, I don't do that because I believe that one of the best things that you can do for another person is to be straightforward and to help them cultivate the power to hear words and realize, they're words. They're not sticks and stones. I like, yeah, well, it's true. And it's so strange that these days words are being considered violence. No. Like when you say, oh, we have to protect this group or that group for these words, what are you doing? You're victimizing people. It's the worst thing ever. It's like, oh, poor little kid, I will help you. Come on. It's the opposite of what we want. No, we want them to say, hey, I do not agree with what you
I
say.
think that we're training people in being disempowered. I had a discussion with
Yes.
a very nice young lady on social media. I have great respect, but I disagree with her mindset on working around difficult people. And I said, if you were working in an office and you decided people were saying things that you didn't like or appreciate or find value in, and I don't like this terminology, but you came to think that they were toxic. Now, I don't think that people are toxic. I think that's a
Yeah, yeah.
mindset thing in our own minds. I mean, would you quit your job? I was trying to make a point. Would you really quit your job? And she said, that's exactly what I did. Well, I would ask, Well, then what advice would you have for the mother or father of 6 or 7 or 8 kids, and they're having trouble paying the rent, and they're having trouble buying food, and you're working around the same people that you label as toxic? Do you tell your kids, well, kids, we just have to go without food for a while? We're going to be homeless, but I just can't work around these toxic people. I think that even that word trains disempowerment and really messes with our mindset about our own capabilities. And so, how do you teach people, because you mentioned hypnosis and some other strategies, how to turn stress and crisis into a competitive advantage?
Well, I think with Hans Saylor, like the first guy who talked about stress, or he called it the adaptation syndrome, But the problem is, like, that's it. It's the adaptation, and that's what people forget. The stress system is here to help us, to make us more sharp, to give us more energy, to higher our threshold for pain. It is all there to help us. Now we have been taught that stress is bad and that will hurt us, and when you believe this, it seems to be true, literally. But then when you look at a whole body of knowledge that is now growing and blooming, and I love it, is the stress is enhancing mindset from Alia Crum and others from Stanford and Harvard. And they have shown that when you believe that stress is there to help you, and you have the highest stress levels, you live the longest, healthiest, and most satisfied lives. And it's interesting, in the body, even it shifts no matter when you're faced with something that's a threat, something that you don't know that you can handle. But you believe that stress is good for you, it's your body reacts as if you are facing a challenge, which means that your veins stay open, so your blood and your oxygen can go to your vein, to your cells, and you have even neuro, you have like anabolic hormones that are stimulating your brain and your body. So it's fantastic. It's like even physiologically, when you believe that stress is great for you, it will be like that. And what is an added benefit? When does stress become dangerous? Well, when you can't sleep, when you can't do anything else. But if you believe that stress is there to help you, well, then it's much easier to, after the fact, put it next to you, because you know it's part of the whole thing. We are hunters. We go after the mammoth. We have the mammoth. Aha, feast. And that's the part that many people forget, because we get stuck in the rat race. We want more, more, and more. And then we forget to enjoy, to have the feast. So what is a feast? A feast, we have good food, we have music, we tell stories, we make sweet, sweet love with our beautiful, beautiful cave woman, and we sing.
I'm gonna share that with my wife this evening, honey. You're my cave woman. She'll love that. She'll love that. And I love how you're putting that, because we really can choose to find value and purpose in the stress instead of catastrophizing it. The stress is like a weight against my existence. The only question is my believing that I had the ability, the capability to manage to lift that stress. Well, before we run out of time, what is your own top current mental struggle? The biggest thing you struggle with currently with yourself?
uh, the lack of kill or be killed challenge. So since I stopped fighting, I really miss that thing. So I think I want to go into real public speaking, where I can stand in front of thousands of people, because I miss that thing where everybody's around you and you rise or you fall.
It's really
No,
quite the
no.
it's really quite the pump, isn't it? What's your current best mindset
Yes.
hack? Your current best mindset hack?
Well, my body is a source of pleasure in every moment. So for the moment, suppose now you focus on your body, you look into it, you will always find pleasure. Always.
I love that. And what would you say? I've never been a fighter. I used to wrestle, and I'm more of a weightlifter, bodybuilder guy. But you took lots and lots of punches. How did you learn how to take a punch? And there's lots of punches in life, business, and relationships. What would you say is the best way to prepare yourself for the punches in life and business and relationships?
The best way is to learn how not to get hit. But you're gonna get hit anyway. Now, for me, that was an inborn thing. I loved it. I was a dumb fighter. Like, I was a smart guy, but I was a dumb fighter because I loved it. First round, they beat me up, and then so I became really popular. People want to see this. My body was not agreeing, but however, and that's what I see with a lot of real go-getters. They love it. They love the grind. They go for it. But then they forget that to be a real top athlete, you're getting paid to rest. Not to grind yourself to death. You get paid to train hard, but you get paid to rest, because I know a lot of people who are not professionals. They're training just as much as or more as the professionals that I know. But in order for you to peak, to get at your absolute summer, at your absolute best, you have to be fresh. Your brain has to be empty enough to be able to see all those possibilities and to optimize them, to use them.
Well, Nico, you bring a great message. And how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can always go to my website. It's nicoverresen.org or toyourtop.com. That's the one that's going to be released somewhere this next week. toyourtop.com. And then Instagram, just Nico_Verresen. And then
Verresen is VERR, two R's?
R-E-S. Yes, 2 R's.
VERRESEN. Nico, thank you for joining us. Folks, thank you for joining us for Executive Espresso. And get out there and keep punching and keep succeeding. We'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend.
Bye.